Welcome. Hello, everybody. I am really glad that you are here. Before we get started, I want to say something directly, basically directly to you. If you signed up for a webinar about divorce, custody, support, or how to settle a family law issue without a long court fight, then I already know a little bit about where you are right now. You're probably carrying a lot. Maybe you lie awake worried about your kids, how all this is going to affect them. Maybe you're scared about money and honestly afraid of what this is going to cost you. And maybe you don't know what your spouse is going to do next. And that uncertainty is exhausting. Maybe part of you just wants this to be over. And another part of you is terrified about giving up too much. And maybe underneath it all, you simply do not know where the next step is going to take you. If any of that sounds like you, you're in the right place. This is exactly why we are having this conversation today. I'm not here to push you into anything. I'm here to show you that court is not your only option. And that for a lot of families in your shoes, there's a calmer, more private, and more affordable way through this. One quick thing before we dig in. Everything I share today is general information, is not legal advice for your specific situation because I don't know your facts yet. Your story is yours. The details matter. The timing matters. Your finances, your kids, they matter. So at the end of today, I'm going to give you a way to sit down with a member of our team and talk through whether this path actually fits your life. Today's going to be a bit of a conversation. It's not a lecture. I'm going to ask you things along the way, and I want you to use that chat feature. Whether you what you're going through might be the exact same thing somebody else on this call needed to hear. Keep an eye on the chat. I've got Charisma here. She is going to be asking some thought-provoking questions too. And you're going to want to stay with me all the way to the end. I have something special for you that we don't just offer anywhere. And the people who stick around are the ones who walk away with the real next step instead of the same knot in their stomach they showed up with. Last thing, we're going to do questions at the end. So if something comes to mind, click that Q&A button at the bottom of the screen. Type your question in there. All right. So with that, we are going to go ahead and get going. If I could figure out how to go ahead and share my screen here. Oh, technology, isn't it so great? There we go. All right. So here's what today is about. It's about how you can resolve your divorce or custody case without getting dragged through litigation. When you hear the word divorce, I bet you picture a courtroom, two lawyers arguing, a judge deciding your future, stress, money draining away, and no control over it. And look, sometimes court is going to be necessary. You're dealing with a real safety issue, or somebody's hiding money, or a spouse who flat out refuses to play fair. Litigation may be exactly what you need. But here's the part that most people never get told. Your case probably does not have to start in a courtroom. There is another path where the two of you actually have a voice and where you work towards solutions instead of going to war. That path is mediation. Let me ask you something from the start. Have you ever actually stepped foot in a courtroom? Drop a yes or a no in the chat for me. Go ahead and find the chat over here. We've got no, yes, no. So a good mix here. A very good mix. If you typed yes, think back to that moment. What did it feel like when you walked through those doors? You don't have to share unless you want to, but be honest with yourself about it. For most people, it's some mix of anxiety, fear, feeling small, feeling like the whole thing is out of your hands. Go ahead. If you want to share, drop it in there. How did you feel when you first stepped into that courtroom? Well, like I was saying, anxiety can be a big part of it. Excitement. Some people, that overwhelm can lead to excitement going, okay, I'm going to get my day in court, but there's a lot going on here. So if these feelings, you're having these feelings, somebody just put terrified. Absolutely. These feelings are completely normal. Courtrooms are not built to make you feel comfortable. They're formal, they're public. There's rules that nobody explains to you. There are a dozen other cases on the calendar that morning, and you might be sitting just a few feet away from the very person you're in conflict with. And for you, it's not some abstract legal matter. This is your kids, your home, your money, your future, your stability. Of course, it's going to feel heavy. So here's the question I want you to hold on to for the rest of our time together. If there was a way to settle the big issues in your case while keeping conflict down, keeping your private life private, spending far less, and actually staying in control of the outcome, would that be worth 20 minutes of your attention today? You don't have to answer, just keep that in the back of your head. What are we going to cover today? Well, here's where we are headed. First, I'm going to show you what mediation actually is, how to tell whether it fits your situation. Then we're going to walk through what a real mediation looks like and what it costs compared to a court battle, and why, for a lot of families, it ends up being the better choice. And then I'm going to show you how to prepare so that if you do this, you walk away ready and get the most out of it. And at the very end, like I said, I've got a special offer just for the people who showed up today, who took the time to go ahead, attend this presentation, register, and find out more about mediation. It is genuinely valuable. And I'm going to explain how to grab it. So don't drift off before then. I want to start with a story because mediation is not really a legal process. It's a human one. We had a couple come in who honestly, they were doing pretty well. They had worked through custody. They had talked through visitation. They had figured out support. They had even sorted out most of their property. Things were moving. Then the whole thing ground to a halt over one small table. Not the house, not a retirement account, not a business, a table. On paper, it wasn't much. It was the last thing that you would expect a divorce to blow up over. But in that room, it became everything. He wanted it. She wanted it. The temperature went up. The tone changed. And all that progress stopped. Now picture that same fight in court. The judge wants facts. What is it worth? Who bought it? When? Is it community property, separate property? Is there a legal reason one of them should get it? Those are fair legal questions, but they completely miss the point of what's actually happening. In mediation, mediator does something else that a judge doesn't have time to do. Mediator stops. And in this story, she got curious. Instead of who gets the table, the mediator asked, what does that table mean? And everything changed. For one of them, the table held memories. For the other, it represented a whole history together. It carried meaning that would never show up on a financial form. It was never really about future. It was about feeling seen. It was about not having your whole life together carved up like inventory. Think to yourself, do you have that elephant table in the room? It's the kind of thing that mediation can make room for, and a courtroom simply cannot. In court, there's no time for that. There's deadlines, rules of evidence, a packed calendar, and a judge with 10 other families to get through before lunch. Mediation let this couple slow down long enough to ask what is really going on here. And once they did, they found a creative solution that worked for both of them. That's the difference in a nutshell. Court is about facts and deadlines. Mediation is about people. What actually matters to them and finding something that works. Have you ever had an argument? Think to yourself, have you ever had an argument that was about one thing, but deep down inside, it was really about something else underneath? This is what mediation can help uncover. In family law, this happens constantly. The fight looks like it's about the weekend schedule, but it's really about being afraid of losing time with your kid. It looks like it's about support, but it's really about being afraid you're not going to be okay financially. It looks like a piece of property, but it's really about wanting to feel respected on your way out the door. A good mediator helps you get what is actually the driving force behind the conflict, because that is the only way that you're going to be able to solve things for good. Okay, now that you've seen what it can look like, let me back up and answer the obvious question. What exactly is mediation? Let's spend a few minutes on that, because I find most people have heard the word but have gotten the wrong picture in their head. Maybe you think it means sitting in a room, being forced to compromise. Maybe you think it means signing away your rights. Maybe you think it only works if you and your spouse already have an agreement. None of that's true. Here's the real definition. Mediation is a structured process where a neutral professional helps the two of you communicate, get clear on the issues, understand your options, and work towards an agreement. That's it. Most people assume that court is the only door, that once things get hard, your only move is to file papers, lawyer up, and go fight it out in front of a judge. And I get why you'd think that. Honestly, I want to be straight with you about something. I'm a litigator by training. Attorneys like me are taught to fight. We are trained to win an argument, to file the motion, to take it to the judge. I have handled a lot of contested cases over my career. And for a long time, that is just how I assumed things had to go. Litigation where you need the pit bull, the shark. But somewhere along the way, I saw what mediation and a negotiated settlement could actually do for a family. And it's changed how I think about this work. So when I tell you court is not always the answer, it's not a sales line. That's a litigator telling you there's often a better way. And most lawyers will never say that to you. Because here's what litigation does. It builds around positions. You file. They respond. You argue you're right. They argue they're right. The judge decides. It turns every disagreement into a battle. It can run up your fear, your anxiety, and puts you in a win or lose mindset where the goal becomes beating the other person instead of solving the problem. Mediation flips the question. Instead of how do I win, it asks what needs to get solved? What are our options? That one shift changes the entire experience. Drop in the chat. I want you to go ahead, type 1 if you assumed court was basically the only way to get divorced or settle a custody dispute. Type 2 if you already knew mediation was an option. We got a 2, mediation. Okay, good. Mediation was an option. Well, of course you knew that. You signed up for this webinar to see if it was going to be right for you. Okay. A lot of people ask, oh man, can't I just do this myself? Money's tight. Can't I just go download forms, fill them out, skip the lawyers entirely? It's a fair question, but I want to give you a straight answer. You can try, but here's what we see happen. Those online forms, they're generic. They don't know your situations. Courts reject the paperwork all the time for being incomplete or filled out wrong, and you're stuck redoing it. And the bigger risk is a do-it-yourself agreement instead of even going through mediation. And these agreements can miss things, so where it's not actually enforceable or can quite frankly fall apart later. And fixing a broken agreement after the fact almost always costs you more than it would have cost to do the right first time. So the way I've seen it, doing it yourself is not really the cheap option. It moves the bill to later with interest. Now, if the other person is coercive or controlling, if they're hiding money or refusing to put their cards on the table, or if they simply are in denial that this divorce is even happening, then a do-it-yourself agreement is not going to hold. And you may need protections that only come with representation. That's not failure. This is the right tool for that situation. And if that's you, the consultation at the end of this is exactly where we sort out which path protects you. So here's the real question to ask yourself. And this is the one on the screen. Is there enough mutual respect between the two of you to negotiate without each of you having a lawyer in your corner? The answer is yes. Mediation can work beautifully. If no, it's not failure. Just may mean you need representation. And that's exactly what you need to discuss in a consultation. So let's talk about the mediator. Okay, this is the person in the middle. This trips people up a lot. A mediator is a neutral person. They're not on your side. They're not on your spouse's side. They're not there to represent anybody. They don't decide who wins, or they're not there to punish anybody. They're not a judge. What they do is help the conversation. They help you name the issues. They help explain how things generally work. They lay out your options, and they guide the two of you towards a resolution you can both live with. And that neutrality is the whole point. The mediator can tell you, here's how the issues usually get analyzed. Here are the categories we have to cover. Here's what other families in your spot have done. Here's the documents we're going to need. And here's what happens when you leave this unresolved. What they will not do is become anybody's lawyer. This is why it also matters that your mediator is an attorney mediator, not just anybody with a certificate. An attorney mediator understands the legal framework, the court process, and what would realistically happen if your case went in front of a judge. That keeps the whole conversation grounded in reality. So if you're not making decisions based on guesses. And to protect you even further, in most mediations, each of you can actually have your own independent attorney review the final agreement before you sign. So you get the calmer process and the peace of mind. This is the part that I love. In mediation, you keep the power to decide. The mediator just creates conditions for the two of you to get there. The agreement is yours. There's more than one type of mediation. There's different forms of mediation. Sorry, a little distracted by outside the window here. Okay, there's more than one type of mediation. So I want to go ahead and clear this up as well. One kind is connected to the court. If your case involves custody and visitation, and you file for a hearing with the court to take care of those issues, the court's going to make you go through a program before the judge rules on that custody. It goes by different names. We typically just refer to it as mediation, custody mediation. Here in Riverside County, it's Child Custody Recommending Counseling. San Diego County is Family Court Services. But it is all there. It's all a requirement that you have to attend this before a judge can rule on custody visitation. And it's just focused on the parenting piece. Private mediation is a different animal, and it's what I'm really going to talk about today, what I'm talking about right now. You can use it before things get litigated, while your case is pending, or even after a court fight has already started. It can happen in person, over Zoom. Our firm, we do it by Zoom. And you can use it for your whole case or just one stubborn issue. So you might use it to handle your entire divorce, parenting, support, property, debts, all the final paperwork. Or you might use it to settle one thing, like a holiday schedule or support change that the two of you can't agree on. The flexibility is the point. You get to slow down, prepare, actually understand what you're deciding and work through it in an organized way instead of reacting to the next court deadline. So, is mediation right for you? Let me describe the cases it tends to fit and see if you recognize yourself. If you want to stay in control of your own outcome, this is for you. When you go to court, you're handing your family to the judge. The judge does their best, but they don't know your kid's bedtime routine, your work schedule, your holidays, or your finances the way you do. In mediation, you build a plan around your actual life. If you're a parent and you want to protect your kids from conflict, this is for you. Your children don't need you to agree on everything, but they do need you to be open-minded, ready to discuss options for them. Mediation keeps the focus on what is important instead of every old frustration. If the costs and stress of a court war scare you, this is for you. Litigation gets expensive very fast. Filing, court appearances, discovery, declarations, hearings, prep, and conflict on repeat. We'll talk about the real costs in a minute, but for most people, this is the number one reason they go looking for another way. And if your privacy matters to you, this is for you. Your finances, your parenting struggles, your marriage, none of that belongs in a public record if you can avoid it. Mediation keeps it private. Now, I'm going to be honest with you about when mediation is not the answer, because I would rather you trust me than oversell you. If there's a real safety risk, if somebody is being controlling or coercive, if assets are being hidden, if your spouse simply will not participate honestly, mediation may not be the right move right now. You should not have to figure that out alone. This is exactly the kind of thing that we can sort out. So I want you to go ahead, type in the chat here. Which of these matter most to you? Privacy, control, less conflict, or a faster resolution? A for privacy, B for control, C for less conflict, D for a faster resolution. Get it done faster. Control over the situation. Absolutely, absolutely. This is good. Privacy, we've got control again. Great. Control. B and C, less conflict. Fantastic. Whatever you just thought of, hold on to it, because that's the thing that should drive the choice that you make next. Most people want more than one, and the nice thing is mediation can give you several of these at once. So the question is what can you resolve in mediation? I'm going to show you what mediation can actually handle, because people assume it's only for the easy stuff. It's not. Your parenting plan, legal custody, physical custody, the regular schedule, holidays, vacations, exchanges, who makes school and medical decisions, all of it. Child support, the income picture, the guideline support, add-ons, we call them add-ons like childcare, medical expenses, and how it actually gets paid. Spousal support, whether it's temporary, long-term, how long it's going to last, there's going to be changes along the way, or creative structures that fit your real numbers. Property, the house, the bank accounts, the cars, retirement, the debts, personal property, a business, all of it, and everything in between. Sometimes you're not ready to settle everything at once, and it's fine. Mediation can set up temporary agreements. Who pays what? Who stays where? How parenting works for now while you sort out the rest. Here's the key thing that I want you to hear. Mediation does not skip the hard legal issues. It deals with every single one issue that a court is going to deal with. The difference is how. In court, each issue gets fought over. Back and forth, you versus them. In mediation, those exact same issues get worked through negotiation, discussion. Somebody's guiding that conversation so it stays productive instead of turning into a brawl. Same issues, completely different room. Which of these stresses, in your opinion, um, which of these is going to stress you out the most? Is it parenting, support, property, debt, communication? You want to go ahead and resolve these property issues. That can be a big one that is sorted out and discussed. You saw the example I use is not always about kids. It is about property. 1 and 2, parenting and support, being financially stable, coming out of a divorce. That's definitely. All right, mediation versus litigation. I'm going to put them side by side. I've already talked a little bit about litigation and the things that it entails, but I really want to put the focus here side by side because this is where it gets real. The path that you pick affects what you spend, how long it takes, how private it stays, and how much stress you carry, and what your relationship looks like when the dust settles. Okay, I'm going to walk you through what litigation actually looks like so it's not a mystery. Starts with finding an attorney, prepping the court paperwork, filing the court paperwork, obtain your first court hearing date, serve the paperwork, attend the first court hearing. And that rarely fixes everything, so more hearings could follow. Then come the financial disclosures, the discovery, the back and forth negotiations, the motions to move things along, a settlement conference, and even maybe a trial. A contested case that goes all the way to trial can sometimes take a year or two. Some go faster, some are slower, but the point is, once you're in it, it can drag. And the process itself feeds the fire. The day your spouse gets served, it feels like an attack. Even when the filing is routine, when declarations get written, people reach for the worst moments of the marriage. When hearings get set, both sides gear up to win. None of that is going to make settling easier. It makes it harder. Now, litigation has its place. Sometimes you need it. But what you actually want is less conflict, a working relationship with your co-parent, your privacy, and a resolution that costs you a fraction of a court fight. Then you owe it to yourself to look hard at mediation first. For most families, that worry right there is the whole reason they go looking for a better way. So, what does court actually feel like? Just want you to be able to picture this. We have certain things called short cause hearings and trials. A short hearing might put you in a room with 10 or 20 other cases waiting their turn. Sometimes it's over video. Your moment is brief, the arguments are quick. The judge asks a few fast questions and decides based on very little time and very little information. When the thing on the line is your kids or your home, that can feel maddening. A trial is a different beast. It can stretch over days, even weeks. Witnesses, testimony, exhibits, objections, the works. The judge might take it all home and hand out a decision weeks later. Sometimes that level of formality is genuinely necessary. But be honest with yourself. You probably don't want a public battle. You want answers. You want to know where your kids will be next week, who's paying the mortgage, how support is going to work, whether you can finally exhale and move forward. Mediation is built to get you those answers directly. So what does the mediation process actually look like? Let's walk through it because seeing the steps tends to make the whole thing feel a lot less scary. Step 1, you find the mediator. You want somebody who knows family law, understands conflict, stays genuinely neutral, and keeps things moving. Step 2, financial assets and disclosures. Good decisions need real information. So this income, expenses, assets, debts, and the documents behind them. The more honest you and prepared you both are, the better this works. Step 3, your wish list. Get prepared to not demand everything. Get clear on what you might actually want. What are you worried about? Where you might bend on things. What does a good outcome even look like for you? Step 4, preparation and review. This is where your attorney mediator does the homework before you even sit down with them. Getting clear on what needs to be resolved and what matters most to each of you. Here's something that surprises a lot of people. You and your spouse may be already closer to an agreement than you realize, and a prepared mediator can spot that and help you close that gap fast. Step 5, your first session. This is where it gets real. You both sit down with the mediator, you name the big issues, you talk priorities, and you start finding the first points of agreement. Step 6, sometimes you need a second session, sometimes even more. Sometimes they wrap up quickly. Sometimes you got to keep coming back and dealing with complex issues. Step 7, you reach an agreement. That might be a full agreement or a partial one. And partial still counts because every issue you settle is one less thing to fight about. Step 8, the court documents get prepared, this time reflecting your agreement instead of a fight. Step 9, you sign. Step 10, it gets filed with the court. And here's the timeline that gets people's attention. We aim to wrap up the whole thing, paperwork and all, in a matter of weeks, not the year or more in a litigated case. Now, every case is different, so I'm not going to promise you a date, but weeks versus years is the kind of difference that changes your life. Looking at these steps, which sounds most helpful to you? The structure of mediation, the privacy of mediation, the speed, weeks, not years. Cost, timing counts. Cost is going to be less. The control, the ability to talk about the issues with that mediator and not just a few snippets with the judge. A lot of people feel calmer just seeing it laid out like this. Half of what makes a divorce so overwhelming is not knowing what comes next. Mediation gives the whole thing a sequence so you can actually follow it. Now, let me take you inside an actual mediation session so you know what you're going to be walking into. These days, like ours, a lot of them happen over Zoom, which honestly takes a lot of the pressure off. No courthouse, no travel, no sitting across the table from your spouse before you're ready. It usually starts with the mediator setting the ground rules, how this stays neutral, how it stays confidential, what you're trying to get done, and how the conversation is going to flow. Then the mediator listens to both of you. This part matters. Mediation is not about silencing anybody. It's about making sure you actually get heard in a structured way, maybe for the first time in this whole process. Then you take it one issue at a time. And that's a bigger deal than it sounds. When you're in conflict, everything feels tangled together. Parenting bleeds to money. Money bleeds into the house bleeds into resentment. Mediation pulls those apart so you can breathe. Let me give you a real picture of how that flow works. So you start on the parenting schedule, and it's going fine. Then you hit the house, and suddenly things get tense. Voices tighten, nobody's budging. A good mediator does not force it. They set the house aside for a bit and move on to something else, something that's going to be more workable, like how to split a few accounts. You get a couple of wins, the temperature drops, and a little momentum starts building. Then we circle back around to the house. Now you're coming at it calmer. You often realize it was tangled up with something else all along, like who keeps the kids in their school. That back and forth, that freedom to set something down and pick it up later is something a courtroom calendar is never going to give you. The conversational nature of mediation is exactly what lets ideas and solutions actually surface. Breaks are part of it too. In court, you're typically rushed by the calendar. In mediation, you can pause, gather yourself, let the emotions settle, and come back when you're ready. The most powerful tool in the room is simple: asking why, not just what. You say, I want the house. Why? Because I want the kids to stay in their school. And just like that, the conversation opens up because maybe there's more than one way to keep them in that school. You say, I want every weekend. Why? Because your work eats your weekdays and you're scared of losing your relationship with your kid. We're not fighting about weekends anymore. We're protecting your time with your child. That's where the real solutions start. Now, I want you to finish this sentence for yourself. You can put it into the chat or just keep it in your head. What I really want out of all of this is take a moment to think. What I really want out of all of this is feel free to share or keep it to yourself. This sentence is everything. Mediation works best when you know what you truly need, not just what you're reacting to in the heat of the moment. Now you've seen both paths, the courtroom and mediation table. So let me put the thing on the table that matters most to a lot of you, especially when money is tight, which is what's the cost? Litigation is going to be billed by the hour. You don't control the clock. Every email, phone call, every emotion, every reaction from the other side, it all lands on your bill. The total financial impact, it's not even known until it's finalized. You know the old joke. They say marriage is 50-50, but divorce is 50,000. It's not exact, but it sticks around for a reason, because anybody who has been through a litigated divorce knows it captures something painfully true about what a court fight costs you. Mediation works the opposite way. Instead of an open-ended meter, it's the one flat predictable fee. It's agreed upon up front. That covers the process for both of you. And you know what you're walking into before you start. It does not balloon every time your spouse fires off an angry email. I just want to let you know, be open about it. So you know, when we do mediations, our attorney mediations, they run $8,500. I outlined the process before. We have the 2 sessions. That's what it's going to cost. We're going to be upfront about it. I want you to drop in the chat, when you picture paying for your divorce, which feels better? An unpredictable hourly bill or one flat fee you can agree upon? If you guys can go ahead and actually sit down and work on things, is that flat fee up front going to be worth it? Type hourly or flat. Flat free, not free. I think you meant flat fee there. Yes, flat. Okay, for a family watching every dollar, the predictability is not a small thing. It's the difference between dreading the next invoice and knowing exactly where you stand from day one. So let me put it together and tell you plainly why mediation may be the better path for you. First, you stay in control. In court, the judge decides. In mediation, you do. Not everything goes your way. That's not how it works. But you have a real hand in building the outcome. And that means the result actually fits your life. A judge hands you a standard schedule. In mediation, you shape it around your work, your kids, their activities, your holidays. The real details a judge may never know. Second, you lower the conflict. The whole process is built around solving problems, not attacking each other. And if you're a parent, this is huge, because your divorce ends the marriage, but it does not end your relationship as co-parents. You're going to be in the same room at graduations, weddings, sick days, and 1,000 text messages about logistics. A process that torches communication costs you for years. A process that protects it pays you back for years. Third, you keep your privacy. And there's a legal layer here that really matters. Your finances, your personal life stay out of the public record. On top of that, what you say in mediation is generally confidential and cannot be used against you and later if you can't reach an agreement and you go to court. This protection is exactly what lets the both of you speak openly enough to actually solve things. And the mediator can meet with you, or excuse me, the mediator can meet privately with both of you and then share the information. Fourth thing, that why mediation can be better than litigation. It can cost you far less. Not because anybody waves a magic wand, but because you're not paying for repeated court battles. Fewer hearings, less discovery warfare, more focused conversations, one predictable fee instead of a meter that never stops running. Fifth, it's faster. When you both show up in good faith, you're not waiting on court dates and grinding through hearing after hearing. You move. And sixth, and maybe this is the most overlooked one, it sets you up for an easier future. People actually follow agreements they helped build. When the two of you create a plan, instead of a judge forcing one on you, there's fewer fights down the road and fewer trips back to court to change things. That saves you money and stress for years, not just today. There's no wrong answer. Different families need different things. The beauty of mediation is that it can give you several of these things at the same time. Now, let me clear up the single biggest myth I hear, because it might be the exact thing holding you back from trying mediation. People think that they have to already agree for mediation to work. They go, mediation sounds great, but my spouse and I cannot agree on anything. I want to tell you that's not a reason mediation will fail. That's the entire reason it exists. You do not need to agree on everything. What you need is good communication. Those are very different things. You don't have to get along. You don't have to trust each other completely. You don't have to have anything figured out before you start. You just have to be willing to be honest, share information, listen, consider options, and work towards something. Now, let me be real with you. Mediation is not magic. It cannot force somebody to be reasonable. It cannot fix every dynamic, and it cannot replace legal protection when you truly need it. But when the both of you are willing to show up in good faith, even angry, even frustrated, even miles apart, it can absolutely move you forward. And here's something that should take some pressure off your shoulders. Choosing mediation does not lock you in. If it turns out it's not working for your situation, you still have every other option open to you, including going to court. You're not signing away anything by trying the calmer, cheaper path first. Think about your own situation. What would good faith look like to you? Sharing financial information, showing up on time, listening before you react, being honest about what you can afford, staying focused on the kids instead of the past. Is this something that is going to lead to a better outcome for you? This clarity is exactly what helps you figure out whether mediation is realistic for you. Okay, here's the simplest way I can frame the whole choice for you. Litigation asks, who wins? Mediation asks, what works? Litigation puts your future in the judge's hands. Mediation keeps it in yours. And don't mistake that for soft. Mediation can be hard. You're going to have tough conversations, face real financial facts, and make real compromises. But the goal is different. In court, you're trying to convince a judge why you should win. In mediation, you're building something you can both actually live with. And that matters more in family law than almost anywhere else, because this is not a business lawsuit where you walk away and never see the other side again. You share kids, you're connected for years. So the real question is not what can I get? It's what am I going to let my family function once this is over? Go ahead and drop in the chat. Which question feels more useful for your family? Who wins or what works? What works? Having that conversation. This shift from winning to working is the heart of everything that I'm telling you today. All right. I got a gift for you. I put something together called the Mediation Readiness Resource, and I want you to have it. Because the question I get more than anything else is, how do I even know if mediation is right for me? This walks you through it. Can both of you participate safely? Are you both willing to put the financial cards on the table? What actually needs to get resolved? Are there court deadlines bearing down on you? What are your real priorities? Where could you be flexible? What should you be asking before you even ever sit down? It's not going to turn you into an expert, but it's going to help you show up prepared to actually use the process well instead of walking in cold. So I've got the QR code up on the screen. Scan that, or if you're on your phone, we've got a link in the chat. Got a link in the chat. We're putting that in there. Fantastic. It's free. It's my gift to you. And this is going to help you look at your own situation clearly and figure out if this is the path forward to you. Perfect. Charisma just went ahead and put that link in there. Click it, download the resource. This is going to help you really put the pieces together. Okay, part 3. I'm going to show you how to prepare, because this is where it can generally tilt the odds in your favor. And here's the mindset I want you to carry into it. You're not preparing to argue better. You're preparing to solve better. First, get clear on your goals, and I mean practically, not just emotionally. Do you need a parenting schedule nailed down? Do you need support sorted out? Do you need to know what happens with the house? Do you need some temporary stability while you figure out the rest? Second, know your priorities. Everything cannot be the most important thing. When it's all a top priority, you can't negotiate. So decide ahead of time what truly matters most to you. Maybe in parenting, it's parenting school is stability. Maybe it's the holidays. Maybe in property, it's keeping the house or getting out of debt or protecting your retirement. Third, you want to gather the financial information: income, expenses, accounts, retirements, debts, the mortgage, car values, tax returns. Mediation runs on real numbers, not guesses, and the prepared person always has the advantage. Fourth, think through your parenting concerns ahead of time: schedules, school, exchanges, communication, healthcare, activities, holidays, and how the two of you are going to make decisions down the road. Fifth, be ready to listen. And listening does not mean agreeing. It just means understanding the other side well enough to respond in a way that actually moves things along. Sixth, this is the hard one: stay focused on the future. Divorce can pull you backward into who did what and who's to blame. Some of that history matters, but the process works best when you keep aiming at what happens next. How do we divide this? How do we take care of the kids? How do we untangle our finances? How do we build a plan that works? Drop in the chat which of these would be hardest for you. Setting goals, figuring out that priority, singular, getting your financial information, figuring out your parenting concerns, listening, or staying focused. So goals, priority, financial info, parenting concerns, listening, or staying future focused. Getting the financials together. We're getting some good response there. The good news is with financials, if a lot of that stuff is online, a lot of that stuff you can find around the house, that's just going to take time to go ahead and get. Now, some people will say, well, I don't have access to the bank accounts online. That's when everybody has to come to the table, lay the cards out. They've got to bring that information to the mediation. So whatever number you just picked there, whatever you're thinking about is going to be difficult, this is a perfect thing to go ahead and talk about doing the consultation. Okay, I'm going to get a little more concrete than just high level. On income and expenses, you want a clear picture of what comes in and what goes out. Wages, any business income, your regular expenses, childcare, insurance, housing, property and debts. Get the basics together. Accounts, retirements, vehicles, real estate, credit cards, loans. Parenting schedule. Think about what would actually work for your kids given school. The distance between your homes, your work, and their ages. On your non-negotiables, be honest with yourself. A non-negotiable should be something that truly matters, not just a preference. If everything is a non-negotiable, you make this so much harder on yourself. Know where you can flex. This is powerful. Maybe you're firm on keeping the kids in their school, but flexible on certain holidays. Maybe you're firm on protecting your retirement, but flexible on how the rest gets split. Flexibility is not weakness. It's usually the thing that unlocks the creative solution that you'd never get from a judge. Write this down for yourself. One thing that you need, one thing you want, and one thing that you can be flexible on. You can share it in the chat or just in notes. Go ahead and say, this is where I'm choosing to prepare these things. This one little exercise can completely change how you show up for mediation. Excuse me. If you take one thing from today, make it this. You're not preparing to argue better, you're preparing to solve better. These are two completely different mindsets. Arguing better means collecting ammunition, focusing on their flaws, trying to prove you're right and they are wrong. Solving better means gathering information, getting clear on what matters, understanding your options, and aiming at the outcome you actually want. And there's a real difference between a position and an outcome. A position is, I want the house. The outcome is underneath. It's, I want the housing stability and fair financial result. A position is, I want every weekend. The outcome is, I want consistent, meaningful time with my kids. A position is, I'm not paying support. The outcome is, I need something fair that I can actually afford. When you start aiming at outcomes instead of digging into positions, suddenly there's more way to win. That's exactly where mediation shines. Okay, we're bringing it all home here. Mediation lowers conflict. It gives you structure for the hard conversations and a neutral guide to help you keep track. It saves you real time and money. One predictable fee instead of an open-ended bill, and often wrapped up in weeks instead of a year or more in court. It works for a lot of families. Not every family, not every case, but a lot of people in your exact situation come out better with a process that is private, flexible, affordable, and focused on solutions. Preparation changes everything. The clearer you are on your goals, your priority, your numbers, and where you can bend, the better things are going to go for you. It's simply a more thoughtful way, because this is not about ending a marriage on paper. It's about building your next chapter. If you're a parent, it's about your kids, giving them a stable foundation. If you're dividing a life, it's about financial clarity and real closure. Court has its place, but mediation gives you the chance to come out of this with your dignity, your privacy, and your control intact. What's the one thing? Give me a takeaway. What's the one thing that you are looking at these and saying, you know what? I didn't realize mediation could be so great for my situation. It's going to help me reduce that conflict. I like the fact that it's going to save time and costs. It can actually work for my family. Whatever you're thinking of, this is what matters to you. And what matters to you should drive what you do next. Okay, before I get to the special offer, I want you to give you one more chance. Grab that free resource in case you missed it before. Scan that QR code, or if you're on your phone right now, click the link in the chat, download that mediation resource. Use it to ask yourself the honest questions. What needs to be resolved? What information am I still missing? What are my real goals? What am I actually afraid of? What could make me feel ready? What should I be asking for before I choose mediation? Okay, here's the part that I told you to stick around for, the special offer. I want to start with something I genuinely mean. You showed up, you're watching this webinar. You took time out of your schedule that's already stretched thin. You spent it here learning how to handle the hardest thing a family goes through. That matters to me. We understand your time is valuable. Time is money, and you spent yours here with us. So I want to reward you for that. Here's how. Normally, every mediation we handle carries an administrative cost. It's that credit card processing, the postage, the paper, the staff time to help move your case through our office. For our firm, it runs about $500. And that's the real cost that we would want, that it's usually passed along through the fee. But because you are watching, you're taking the time to watch this webinar, we're going to cover it. We're going to eat that administrative cost for ourselves so it never lands on you. In plain terms, that's $500 off your mediation package. Your flat fee comes down from $8,500 to $8,000. And this value is to both you and your spouse who you're looking to move forward from. This is our way of saying your time is worth something, and that betting on yourself by being here today actually pays you back. Strings attached though, and it's a simple one. For us to absorb that cost, you need to retain our firm by Friday, July 31st. That's next Friday. After that, the administrative cost goes back into being part of the fee. Now, before anybody signs anything, we want to make sure mediation is genuinely right for you because it's not right for everyone. So the first step is a conversation with one of our client engagement specialists. This is not a sales pitch. It's not anyone trying to talk you into anything. It's a straightforward conversation where they're going to walk you through a series of questions about your situation to figure out honestly whether mediation actually makes sense for you. You're going to leave that call with clarity. And if it's a fit, you move forward by Friday, July 31st, we're going to cover that administrative cost for you. Here's why I don't want you to put this off. When people leave a webinar like this, they tell themselves, I'm going to deal with it later. But later has a way of becoming another week of lying awake. Another week of tension in the house, another week of not knowing, another week of that knot in your stomach about money, the kids, the house, and what they might do next. And in this case, later also means we can no longer cover that cost for you because this ends July 31st. Getting that call on your calendar gives you a next step. It does not obligate you to do anything. It does not force a decision. It just gives you clarity. And clarity for most people is the first time they breathe easier in weeks. So if anything I said today landed in some part of you is thinking, I want a calmer path, I want to avoid a war, I want to keep this affordable, I want to know if this could work for us, then this is your moment. Book the call now while it's in front of you. And here's how you do it. Another QR code. Scan that QR code. Link is in the chat. You pick a time, lock in your call. Or you can give us a call, 951-309-9358. Scan the QR code, give us a call, or super easy, go over to chat, click the link. It's just that easy. And you want to do it now while it's fresh. Open that phone, scan the QR code, click the link, grab a time. If you're watching on your phone, screenshot this QR code so when we wrap up, you'll be able to go back and easily go there. If you're sitting there thinking, I'm not even sure if mediation is right for me, this is exactly what this call is for. If you're thinking my spouse will never agree, that's something to talk through. If you're thinking, I don't know what documents I need, talk it through. If you're thinking, I want to stay out of court, but I don't know if that's realistic, this is the whole point of the call. This is about helping you find your next step. I'm going to leave this up for a minute so everybody can scan the code, screenshot, click the link, write down the number. Again, 951 309 9358. Okay. Want to go ahead and take some questions. Quick reminder, I can give you general information here, but cannot give you legal advice about your specific case in a group setting like this. So if your question is really specific about you, that's the perfect reason to grab that free consultation. And honestly, specific questions are exactly the ones that deserve real one-on-one attention. That's why I keep nudging you to book before you go. We're going to go ahead and if you retain our services, it's a $500 gift to you. One more thing before I get to the Q&A, I do want to ask you another QR code here. If today helped you or you have feedback from me, please scan that QR code, fill out a quick form. It genuinely helps me make these better for families going through this in the future. So with that, I'm going to go over to Q&A, open that up. Oh, that's very small on the screen there. Okay. First question we have here is from David. One of the fears, concerns I have is that I'll have to pay for a home in which she will bring in a future partner. My stance is that I shouldn't pay for their housing, only should pay for child and limited spousal support. How does mediation help with that? That is a very, very good question, and a concern that we see a lot when people are going through a divorce. The beauty about mediation is the fact that you can be open and honest about this. You can go ahead and come up with solutions that say, hey, I'm providing child support. We've got kids together, financially responsible, but that money should be going towards the kids. Come up with a solution for spousal support. Pay for the home directly, or say, you're going to buy me out of this house. You're going to go ahead, be responsible for whatever mortgage, and the spousal support, once somebody moves in, you could write in the agreement that spousal support stops. These are all the options that you can go ahead and put in there. Mediation gives you that opportunity to be heard and come up with creative solutions. Hope that helps. Okay. So if he's already trying to litigate, is it worth our time doing a consultation? Absolutely. Like I mentioned at the beginning, you can go ahead, you can be in the midst of litigation. Mediation is going to slow that down. It's going to slow the, I don't want to say slow it down because you can actually resolve it a lot faster, but it's going to slow down the battle. It's going to calm things down. It's going to take it into a setting out of court where you can go ahead and talk about the solutions, talk about what the issues are, talk with the other party instead of just get ready for court, get ready for court, get ready for court. And quite frankly, you have that consultation, find out mediation's not necessarily right for you. We can talk litigation too. When we actually go ahead and we schedule that consultation, there's going to be some qualifying questions that we want to go ahead and talk about, because if there are certain issues, mediation's not for everybody. Litigation has its place, but we can go ahead and sort that. So absolutely, scheduling a consultation and talking through that is going to be well worth your time. Okay. What if we've already started the mediation process, but feel kind of one-sided? I haven't signed yet. You've got a lot of options here. So if, as far as how long you are in the process, I can't say, but if you haven't signed yet, sounds like, hey, maybe there's been an agreement in mediation in theory that's already been reached. What you can do is actually take that agreement, go talk with an attorney, buy some time, have them review it. Is this something that's fair to me? Fair for my outcome? Here's what the outcome that I remember we talked about, the issues versus the outcome. Well, here's the outcome I want. does it reach that? And you can go ahead and go back to the mediation and say, well, no, I don't agree anymore. Or you find out this is actually what I wanted. This helps me achieve what I wanted. Sign it. You have that peace of mind. If you don't like that mediator and you feel it is one-sided, you can have a conversation with the other side and switch mediators. But it sounds like, open to the process. Give it another college try. I do see a long question over here in the chat. Excuse me. Okay. Both of us work. I pay all of the household bills, manage most of the day-to-day care of our children. I'm also attending school full-time. My spouse contributes to groceries occasionally, but doesn't consistently contribute to rent, utilities, or other household expenses. He also mentioned he will get spousal support from me. Can mediation help us create a fair agreement for sharing financial responsibilities and parenting duties while we're separated? Absolutely. Mediation gives you those tools, gives you the framework to come up with a solution. You go to court, you provide the financial information, they provide the financial information. Judge is going to go clickety click, put it in a program, outspits a number. But if you can have those conversations in mediation, you can come up with a creative outcome, a creative solution that's going to work for both of you. Now, one thing that I always like to stress in mediation, you didn't necessarily talk about it here, but we're talking parenting duties and finances. A lot of times when people separate property, go back to the elephant table. It wasn't talking about money on the issue, but there was a creative solution. And that solution, maybe it wasn't equal, but it was equitable. And mediation is going to help you get that equitable outcome. What do I think is fair? What do they think is fair? And that can happen with finances, custody, property. Mediation is going to help you steer to that equitable solution. Hope that helps. So, okay, I'm going to go back real quick. Book that consultation, QR code there. Phone number is 951-309-9358. And again, if you have any feedback, I want to go ahead and scan that QR code. Please go ahead, leave us a review or give us feedback. It'd be greatly appreciated. If you remember one thing, let it be this. You have options beyond a courtroom battle. There's a more private, more affordable, more human way to do this for a lot of families, and it might be the right one for yours. If you're ready to find out, give us a call, 951-309-9358. Book your consultation. And remember, retaining by July 31st, we're going to waive or reduce it by that administrative fee. It's a $500 savings because you took the time to be a part of this webinar. Thank you again, and I genuinely would love to help you find your next step. Thank you for joining.